Hello, BookTube. It's Saturday, and it's time for another meander through the periodicals that I've received in the past week. I'm filming this on Saturday, but it won't be going up, I don't think, unless my internet comes back on. It died last night in the middle of watching something off of Prime Video, and it still hasn't come back. I was supposed to work today, which was a no go. So I didn't even. I was going to do a Friday reads, even though this past week reading didn't really work out that well. I've had a sort of severe toothache, but it's a combination of things that it turned out to be right. I think because I've got high blood pressure, and the GP was withholding the medication, so I was basically without for almost a week. So my blood pressure, obviously, is I'm sure had gone up, but they wanted me to take my blood pressure and send them before they would issue um, the medication or me go in, and I can't get in there. The taxis won't take me, so I can't even get in. So I explained that, but finally on Wednesday, they gave me medication, so I had that delivered by the pharmacy. And it's as I thought because the pressure went up, and I've got a problem with my trigeminal nerve, so I have a bit of an issue with the tooth. But that just sort of compounded everything, and I spent several days just sort of sitting where I am now because I couldn't lay down because it was even worse, and just sort of rested as much as I could. The painkillers weren't even touching it, but things have settled down now. The blood pressure, as soon as I started taking the blood pressure medication, it sort of settled down, and it's because I never get toothaches. I never really have, so it was a new experience for me. But anyway, without I'm just prattling on here, but I've got a few things. Most of this came today, and I think one thing yesterday. So I haven't had too much chance. It came later this afternoon to read much of this new stuff, and that's going to be the issue, I think, especially if I get it later in the week. But there is one article from previous one that I want to go through, which I found interesting. But a new one that I started getting is the Guardian Weekly. I've just asked. It was £6 for 6 issues, so an introductory. This is sort of a special wrapping they put on for new subscribers, and it says on the front here, Nelson Mandela called the Guardian Weekly his window on the world. And the next one is that there are Guardian Weekly subscribers in over 170 countries. And the Guardian Weekly was first published in 1919, a week after the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. And former editor Natalie Bennett became leader of the Green Party of England and Wales. American translator Sidney Rittenberg taught Mao Zedong using the Manchester Guardian Weekly. And the Guardian Weekly is printed in Oxfordshire, Sydney, New Jersey, and Auckland. So I've got this, but we'll have to see how it goes. But so far I don't think I'll be continuing with the subscription. It's mainly because like the first whole section is just little bits and pieces. That's all it is. It's just, and it doesn't get into any half decent articles until like well over halfway through, and we're talking just, you know, not even a full page. It's not even a full page. That's a full article here. That's it. There's not much to it, but there is one that's of interest in here, which I haven't read yet, which I do want to. I've read bits and pieces. I've read sort of most of anything that was interesting to me, but I said it's just very sparse. The one that's interesting is it's called "The Last of the Band." It's not the band, the group. It's an article about the in the 1930s, men and women from around the world enlisted in the international brigades to fight fascism in Spain and beyond. But as the final few survivors are celebrated, the brigade's complex legacy is once more under attack. And this is a substantial article. It goes on for 4 pages, so that's not too bad. uh, this is sort of fits in with my Orwell interest because Orwell was there, so that'll be of interest to get. And unless the other issues have more of that, or well, it's got to have more than that, because these things are like, they come out weekly and they're like £4.50 each, and it's just, nah, it doesn't work for me for one little thing like that, and I can't be guaranteed there's going to be one in there for sure. The other things that came, I got, and all came today. The Times Literary Supplement, which seems very, very thin this week for some reason. On the cover, it's In the Eye of the COVID Storm, Niall Ferguson on the global impact of the pandemic. Um, there's one big article here in the beginning, which I'm going to read. It's definitely of interest. It's called "True Confessions: Why Thomas de Quincey's Revelatory Writing Deserves Greater Attention." And this is the articles written by Jane Darcy. It's Thomas de Quincey's Selected Writings, Robert Morrison, editor. 672 pages. Oxford University Press. £95 though, but it should be an interesting read. So I'll enjoy that. And it's under the literature category. And there's a few other items in here that look of interest. Just trying to see, what is it? There's one about a paint or a surrealist artist, how a Belgian surrealist inspired a lad from Bridge of Allen. I'm not quite sure what that's about, but it'll be interesting to take a look. And I'll see what this is. Spooky Tales and Tailing Spooks, a monthly roundup of listening and watching. Sort of, I think, what's on TV and everything, so it could be interesting. This could be interesting too. It's a Piranesi, Susanna Clark. It's just saying it's building an other world, an allegorical play space with endless room to roam through. And then there's some of the catacombs of Paris, little bits and pieces. This one could be interesting too. A primate's progress: how humans do and don't stand out from the evolutionary crowd. And this could be interesting. There'll be one I'll be reading anyway. History: sharing a multiracial history, new ways of looking at great Black Britons, by Montaz Marche. I think that's the reviewer. It's Britain's Black Past, Gretchen H. Gerzina, editor, Liverpool University Press. Again, £84. That's sort of. Oh, this one could be interesting too. Yeah, Lost World of English Farming. So there's quite a bit in this week that are of interest to me, and the MC column. It was mostly about buying used books, so that was quite interesting. I enjoyed that. And in next week's, it's showing that there'll be an article about Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen, so I'm looking forward to that. And also today, this is the week for the London Review of Books. It's a sort of a love and hate relationship with this one, but it's a hefty one this week. There's a lot to this, but there are I just sort of was leafing through it and thought there was a couple articles that are reviews that were worth looking at. If I can find them here, and that's why I say I don't. This here, 20 kicks in the backside. Tom stammers. Art is a tyrant. The Unconventional Life of Rosa Bonheuer by Catherine Hewitt is icon for 183 pages, coming out in February, 20 pounds. So that'll be interesting to read. Um, uh, Tearing pages a bit as I turn it because they're folding back on each other. Um, I don't think that was all. I think there was something else that I thought was interesting. Ah, yeah, here. The body in the library is never our own. It's Ian Peterson on Niall Marsh. So that's. So yeah, I'm debating now whether I'm going to continue with the London Review of Books because it's expensive, and I can actually get the New York Review of Books cheaper. But I haven't seen that in years, so but I might uh, dump this soon and try the New York Review of Books. I don't know if anybody who gets both. Well, I know Steve Donahue does, but I'd be curious to see what people think the comparison between the London Review of Books and the New York Review of Books is. The next two are that I get, weekly is the New Statesman and the Spectator. And these are issues that I'm definitely keeping for the covers. This is the New Statesman. I just love that cover. Yeah, that's really good. And I'll read some of the Trump articles, but it's sometimes I get overloaded with those. But I've been reading through a few things here, um, and then again here too is there's another article, the future of English farming. So that'll be interesting to compare the two. Um, and more Trump because it's dedicated um, to the election. It's the whole thing. Um, Not sure what this one is, but I like the title of it. The analogy for an ash tree, and I like the photo that's there. That's part of it. Because yeah, it's just these are great. Like the artwork is good, and the photography, what there is good. Let me see. Is there something else here? Yeah, it's just it's mostly it's really filled out uh, with the election. Uh, and this is this one would be good too. The Woman Beyond the Garden. This is under critics. I think it's a book review. Frances Hodgkins Burnett's The Secret Garden has enchanted readers for more than a century, but few pay attention to the remarkable life of its author. And this is by Anne Thwaite. She's a I'm not sure if she has written a bio. Yeah, she has. It's published by Duckworth. It's Beyond the Secret Garden of Life, Frances Hodgkins Burnett. She's got she's done several, and I've got one on Edmund Goss that she's done. Her writing style is a bit cumbersome. This one too would be good. It's another sort of. It's a another review, I think, or but it's Living the Dream: How Maxfield Parrish flattered his country with an image of itself as an American Arcadia, and so there's again pretty consistent articles in the New Statesman for me to wanting to continue with this, and there's just sort of radio and television and the new Splitting Image series that's on BritBox, and I think for non-English people you can get it on. I think this being played on YouTube. So if anybody wants to take a look at that, that would probably be a good place to start. Let's look, and then also too, I'm keeping this one intact. Is the cover of the Spectator. I love the cover of that. Just keeping an eye on the time here, but we're almost finished. I haven't actually looked too closely at this one, but yeah, there's several articles that look pretty good. One about uh, free school lunches, which has been a debate here for a while. Uh, what's this one here? Yeah, books from hardtack to trifle. Prue Leith traces the biscuits' surprising, colorful history. So, a history of biscuits. Um, and it's a biscuit, the history of a very British indulgence by Lizzie Collingham, The Bodley Head, 1899. Pounds, 18 pounds 99 pence, and 320 pages. So that looks quite interesting. The other reviews are Tissue of Lies, Claire Loudon, Kiss Myself Goodbye, The Many Lives of Aunt Montka by Ferdinand Mount, Bloomsbury, £20. Secret Understanding, written by the review by Roderick Braithwaite, How Spies Think, 10 Lessons in Intelligence, by David Almond. It's Viking, £20. Haunted by the Past, Mr. Wilder and Me by Jonathan Coe, Jonathan Coe, Viking, £16, 99. And there's a few others here. Dead Fingers Talk, The Restored Text by William S. Burroughs, if you're into William S. Burroughs. Uh, there's a little more substantial, the book reviews in this one, in the Spectator this week. So there we go. There's the periodicals. Sorry, I was sort of discovering them as I went through myself here because I haven't had too much time to look at them. But the article I wanted to look at, I showed this last week, is Current Archaeology. There's a number of ones that are good, that are very interesting in here. There's brief things about the Kern giants. I'm sure everybody recognizes that, and it's sort of, there's a letter here, but there was an article, I think, in a previous one, that they're wondering if it actually is ancient, and because there's no record of it in writing until mid 1600s. And an interesting thing here is coin hoards and plagues. And they were talking about Roman plagues and so forth. And the writer, uh, the letter writer, was wondering if the coin hoards coincide with the plagues that ran through the Roman world. And an article on the first Britain's first Viking helmets, and an article, small one, about a Neolithic timber circle, the first in Somerset, that's been found, and they found a sacristy uncovered at Westminster Abbey with some funerals, and this was kind of interesting. Sometimes I think these researchers have too much time on their hands. This is it's called Science Notes: Searching for the Sounds of Stonehenge. So they wanted to see if it was built in some way, and for sound, for the use of sound. And so they had to, there's a replica in the States, I think. Where does it say here? Maryhill in the United States, but it's made of concrete, so they couldn't actually use that one. So they made a 3D model of it, and even though that's not, and it's a scale of 1 to 12, I think. and then they sprayed it with some paint of some sort to make it, and they think they have the same sort of reflecting qualities for sound as the original the stones at Stonehenge. So after doing all this, and they realize they don't think it was built for or sound wasn't as a thought in the building, and it wasn't built for that reason. But they said that anybody inside singing or talking would not have probably been heard outside of it, just even standing close. So that's kind of interesting, but too much time on their hands. And then there's like an ancient smallpox strain that was found in Oxford that's extinct now. Um, and this the Havering hoard. It's a Bronze Age hoard. But the interesting article that I found that I'd like to go talk about is it's called "Rest in Pieces: Exploring Evidence for Bronze Age Curation of the Dead." Archaeologists have long puzzled over fragments of human bone that have been found scattered around late Bronze Age settlements and placed in early Bronze Age burials like grave goods. Uh, Carly Hiltz examines a recent study that sheds intriguing light on these enigmatic practices. Now, basically, they've been finding they can um, date the burial, but there's other bones in there that have been augmented at times, but from earlier periods. So they've been kept. And there's one here, it's a femur, human femur, carved to create a musical instrument. And somebody's kept that. So they they postulate, they think that people after somebody important died, or it could be relative, but obviously they don't know, but it could be someone important for the society or family member that dies, and they would exhume the body and take either the skull or other bone fragments or complete bones and keep them as keepsakes. And then when they died, or after the person's memory has sort of is fading, they get buried with someone, and they notice the time differences or the date differences, that sometimes they're like 100 years older than the when the grave was actually dug, and when that person had died. And there's they go into a little detail here, which is kind of interesting. It's like, yeah, anywhere ranges from 16 to 167 years older. Then, but they there could be various reasons for this. It could have to do with um, diet in the bones. Like if they eat fish, the protein of from a fish diet can create something called reservoir effect, which skews radiocarbon results to appear earlier than a skeleton's true age. However, they found that uh, due to isotopes and other dental remains, they were not the ones that they were studying were not fish eaters, so that's not the reason why. And it can also be the results of leaching into from the soil, but that's not the case in most of the time. And they figure it does show some kind of rites that were being done, but what they were is sort of going to be up for debate. Um, and it just ends here. These findings enhance an already remarkable picture of diversity across Bronze Age funerary practices. As Berwick and Bruce concludes, it seems that most people were given specific funerary treatment that was deemed appropriate, and that the decision to retain, retrieve, and curate bones was made at a later stage. So yeah, they would bury someone, and then once obviously the flesh had, more skeleton, or they would leave the burial out to the elements, and then wait until they could retrieve bones. from that. And it's just I found that's what I find about archaeology is so interesting. And so I don't know if that puts many people off, but I find it just fascinating. And there's other articles in here that are amazing. It's London Calling Eco Archaeology and the Echoes of the Blitz. It's what's left over, sort of historical archaeology of the Blitz, Second World War, um, and memories. And there's bits and pieces in museums. And there's an interesting little bit here that there's a it's a last appeal to reason by Adolf Hitler, speech before the Reichstag, 19th of July 1940. And this was a propaganda leaflet that was dropped over Swansea in 1941 by the Germans. And that's that. I found that kind of quite interesting as well. Um, and yeah, it just uh, and then there's this one here, Egyptian urn. I'm not sure if I mentioned this one last time, but it's an Egyptian urn from um, was found buried in Scotland and it was it contained the ashes of, it would have been probably, they figure, a prominent, it could have been a general or someone prominent, but it was something that was carried obviously from Egypt, an Egyptian urn all the way across, and the person was buried uh, in it. His ashes were buried in Scotland. So that's quite interesting. Um, yeah, and it's just, there we go. There's that one, and as I say, and I'm under 30 minutes, so that's why I'm going to try to keep these under 30 minutes and just go through and highlight every week one article that I find of interest. And if anything that I'm sort of rattling off here of the ones I've just got, if anybody finds that of interest and wants to know more about it, just sound out in the comments, and I'll explain it. Sorry, I'm just looking at uh, the advertising, the bump that goes into to the to the magazines. But yeah, so if anybody's interested in anything and want to know a little more in depth, then let me know, and I'll add it on to a separate video, or add it on for next week's. And I'm not sure what's coming the coming week, because I should be getting a National Geographic magazine soon. I should be getting History Today, and there's a few other ones, but I think they're just they might be a bit delayed. Uh, so yeah, and I've got a whole pile of stuff that like most of them are introductory offers, but I figured out that I could pretty well keep most of what I've ordered, as long as the ones that I'm interested in. The Guardian Weekly, as I say, that's not gonna cut it. I don't think. I'm not gonna keep that unless all of a sudden the next 4 issues or 5 issues that I'm getting just really astound me. But they're just too expensive, it seems. So so yeah. So there's this week's Saturday Meander, and maybe a little more meandering than normal. But as I say, I'm reeling from a week of extreme trigeminal pain, and causing a toothache as well. So, and just sort of recovering from that still. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well, and I'll have this up as soon as I can. But chances are it's not going to be until early in the week that I get internet back. Take care, BuckTube.